It was October of 1919, a cool autumn morning in Washington, when the most powerful man in the world awoke unable to move his left side. Woodrow Wilson, President of the United States, had suffered a massive stroke. The right side of his face drooped, his speech slurred, his body broken. But the outside world would not know. Behind the closed doors of the White House, a wall of silence was erected. Doctors whispered in hallways, servants were sworn to secrecy, and one woman quietly stepped forward to fill the vacuum of power. Her name was Edith Wilson, the First Lady, and in the days that followed, she became more than a wife. She became the guardian of a nation's secret. For weeks, the president lay in his bed, curtains drawn, the smell of medicine and damp linens thick in the air. At 10 a.m. each morning, a routine was established. Papers would be brought to Edith, decisions relayed, signatures forged in trembling hands. But it was Edith who decided what Wilson saw, what he read, and what he never knew. Cabinet members grew restless, senators demanded answers, but they were met with smiles and half-truths. The president is recovering, they were told, though none had seen his face. Behind the facade, America drifted without its leader, guided only by the quiet will of a woman never elected, never sworn, yet suddenly at the helm. Outside the White House, the world teetered on the edge. Europe smoldered from the ashes of the Great War, and Wilson's grand vision, the League of Nations, hung in the balance. But the man who had dreamed it could barely lift the pen. His enemies in Congress sensed weakness, pressing their advantage, while allies begged for guidance that never came. And yet, for months, the illusion held. Edith managed visitors with calculated precision, allowing only those who would not expose the truth. Even Vice President Thomas Marshall was kept in the dark, denied the chance to step in, as the Constitution intended. By winter, rumors spread like wildfire. Some claimed the president was near death, others that he had gone mad. At 2 a.m., when the halls of the White House lay silent, aides would hear muffled groans from the president's chamber, the labored breaths of a man who had once commanded nations, now struggling simply to survive the night. Still, no announcement was made. The secret was too dangerous. To admit the truth would invite chaos, risk the collapse of fragile peace abroad, and fracture the government at home. So the lie persisted. The months turned to a year, and the nation carried on as if its leader were still in command. Edith shielded Wilson from the world, and the world from Wilson, filtering every decision through her own hands. Some historians would later call her the first female president, though she claimed only to be a steward. But in reality, the fate of treaties, appointments, and policies all passed through her discretion. America's destiny in the fragile years after the Great War had been reshaped in the shadows of a bedroom. By 1920, Wilson was a ghost of himself. His body remained frail, his mind clouded, yet he clung to the hope that he might return. But the Democratic Party, fractured and weary of silence, turned away from him. The League of Nations, his great dream, was rejected by Congress, and America retreated from the world stage. The cost of secrecy was no longer hidden. It was written in the headlines of failure and the whispers of a country that had been led by absence. When Wilson finally left office in March 1921, he emerged from the White House a shadow, leaning heavily on Edith's arm, the truth of his collapse now impossible to conceal. The secret that had once been hidden in darkened rooms spilled out into history, revealing a presidency unlike any other. One man had fallen, one woman had risen, and the nation had unknowingly been steered by hands the people had never chosen. The story of Woodrow Wilson's stroke is not simply one of illness, but of silence. A silence that lasted 17 months. A silence that altered treaties, redefined power, and reshaped the very fabric of American politics. It is a reminder that sometimes the fate of nations does not turn on the roar of armies or the clash of parliaments, but on the quiet closing of a door and the deadly secret kept within.